But a lot of that's like this perfect segue, right? Because I mentioned Japanese boxing. You're probably the only person on YouTube, that speaks English that talks about Japanese boxing as much, if not more, than me. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole Naoya Inoue, Marlon Tapales fight, and just like what do you think he goes from here? What did you make of all that?
Yeah, thought it was a solid performance from Inoue. Didn't think it was quite as devastating as we're used to seeing. I do think that perhaps just a little bit trigger happy at times. I think he thought that he'd just walk through to Tapales, and it's kind of difficult for Inoue because he never really knows what reaction he's going to get. He never knows if he's going to hit someone and they're just going to fold right away. He doesn't know if he's going to hit someone and they're going to respond well to it. He's fought guys in the past that, someone like a Das Marinas that just went over right away. And then he hits someone like Depayen, who no one's got expectations for. And then he manages to hold up for a couple of rounds in there. I thought Tapales did well. He wasn't scared of Inoue. And I think a lot of guys, his last undisputed fight against Paul Butler, my fellow countryman, didn't do us proud, just went on the run for 12 rounds as much as he could. But I think that Tapales brought it. And once Inoue just composed himself a little bit like he needed to do, you just saw that the punch in power and the speed and the ferocity and the skills was just far too much for him.
No, 100%. I feel like in that fight he showed a bit more maturity. He's not, you don't normally see Inoue, hit somebody and they don't fall down. So I like the fact that somebody actually stood up to his power for a little bit. We got to see so that's something a bit different from the monster.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Tapales, credit to him, because like you say, people either get hit by him and they go down right away, or if they do get hit by him and don't go down, they at least go into their shell and they cower away and then make it difficult for Inoue. Tapales didn't do that, got put down in the fourth or fifth round and then was straight back up and looking to throw big shots. But it was one of those where the longer the fight went on, you could just see that Inoue just was going to have too much for him going into the back end of the fight.
Absolutely. And now he's undisputed once again, for the second time. I think it was 378 days, something like that. A lot of talk's been going on about next year, what he's going to do, what's next for him. They're saying Merjan, they're saying Casimiro, Sam Goodman's name that's been thrown out there as well. But I wanted to ask you, Jamie, who do you think from 122 to featherweight, who would be someone or a couple guys that you think would give him the toughest challenge?
Yeah, in terms of like the toughest challenge, you probably look more towards featherweight because you just have the size factor and you don't really know, kind of how we would handle that. There's a lot of big guys at featherweight. Featherweight's got a weird division where there's these kind of, small, stocky guys like your Nick Balls and your Mauricio Laras, but then you get these tall, lanky, skinny guys like your Brandon Figueroas and your Rafael Espinoza, who's tall, rangy. So there's quite a mix at featherweight, which there isn't more so down at super bantamweight. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does because he's constantly just gone for the next goal. And it's kind of weird, right? Because he's gone to super bantamweight and he beat the best super bantamweight in the world in the first fight in Stephen Fulton. So then it's kind of like, well, what do you do there? Yeah, it's what's next for him? But I still think there's actually not necessarily fights that he loses at super bantamweight because I think he beats everyone. But I still think there's guys there that if he was not the superstar that he is, but if he was just to fight a Lewis Neri, to fight MJ Akhmadliev, to fight those guys, you'd be like, that's a pretty damn good fight. And I like the Lewis Neri fight just because of the backstory. Obviously, Lewis Neri is very disliked over in Japan because of his backstory and stuff. So I think that fight's got a bit of needle to it. Lewis Neri said some things about Inoue's father in the past as well. So I think that brings out a side of Inoue that I think would make for a really interesting fight. And although Tapales beat MJ, it was a very close fight. It was a bad version of MJ. I think a better version of MJ would have got over the line against Tapales and probably gives Inoue something to think about at the very least.
Okay, and then I know they also have Casimiro. That's another one. I know Casimiro's a bit past it, but Casimiro's the name they keep saying as well.
Yeah, that's more of a rivalry thing. Like Casimiro hasn't looked good in the last couple of years. He hasn't taken his career seriously. But because there's this rivalry and it was supposed to happen in the COVID year, and then obviously it got postponed and never got revisited after that. So I can see why they keep going back to it. But I think all of us kind of expect Inoue to win that very, very comfortably.
Yeah. I know I'm kind of hoping they don't reward MJ for the fight because I kind of feel some type of way about how MJ didn't fight Stephen Fulton when he had a chance to. I wish he would have fought Fulton. So I have my feelings about MJ, and I do think with MJ Akhmadaliev, like I personally, just me, I think he's a little overrated. That's just me though. Yeah, I would rather see Inoue fight Neri and just move up, but.
Yeah, and MJ, I have similar feelings on when he lost to Tapales. I was one of the sort of first people that said I don't really feel sorry for him at all because he's had the opportunity to take big fights. It's not like he's taking on these mandatories because no one will fight him. Like you said, he had the opportunity to take him, didn't take him. He got out of shape and then just rolled into the ring and thought I'll beat Tapales, and ultimately it backfired. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, you can't waste time in this game. You know, it's
Yeah.
boxing changes every hour. Forget the day, but it changes by the hour. It seems like.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. Who do you have pound for pound number one? Because there's this argument between Crawford and Inoue, like who's the best fighter in the world? Is it one of those guys, or do you think it's somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think those two are the best two fighters in the world right now. I have it 1A and 1B whenever someone asks me because I've seen, because it's obviously been recently the end of 2023 and the fighter of the year conversation has come up. Like, there's been people that are like fighting for Crawford or fighting for Inoue. I'm kind of more just like, they're both great. They've both had fantastic years. They've both gone a little bit differently about how they've gone undisputed this year. Crawford might have the best win of them this year and maybe the best performance of them. But Inoue, what he's done, starting the year with no belts and then moving up and finishing with all the belts, being two unified champions. You know, right now, I think personally, I have Inoue, but I'm someone that rewards activity as well. I'm someone that doesn't like when someone is one of the best in the sport and thinks, okay, that gives me a hall pass to just fight once a year now. I like that Inoue moves up and looks to get his work done, get his stuff done. So I just have him for the inactivity factor. And if anyone's ever seen one of my pound for pound lists, a lot of guys do get punished on my list for not being active. So I would have Inoue just because he's a little bit more regular at the minute.
Okay, fair enough.